How shall we start this?
Do we not start every podcast with like, hi, I'm Helen Tudor and this is the Ideal Client Attraction Podcast, or not? You can have that. Done. We're rocking and rolling. Let's go.
Okay.
Do it.
So we find ourselves at episode 3.
We do.
And in episode 3, we are going to discuss your first hire.
Yes. Or next hire.
First or next.
But I think we'll start with first, because I think
Okay.
that's that point where you're at to really start building a machine. You need people to run the machine.
Absolutely.
Because if you build a machine that's solely based on tech, you are still the bottleneck, aren't you? You are still
Absolutely.
You are still limited by your time, skill, expertise,
Health.
and health.
Because let's be honest, obviously you're a lady, Helen, so you've never experienced man flu or something equally horrendous, but you could build this massive machine that's built around tech. You get man flu, you're gone for a good 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You're down. So
You're down, yeah.
you're down. And all you could do is like Match of the Day and Sports Saturday. And
In your dressing gown of doom.
As you claw to life and message like family members to get someone to actually care
Bring you some
how
snacks.
close to death you are. But yeah, so with that, we spoke partly about team members and hires in the machine episode, which was episode 1.
Yes.
So I would recommend that people go back, listen to episode 1,
Yes.
if you haven't already. It was a very good episode. And then come back to here so that in this episode, Helen can use the time to build on that rather than go over the same stuff. So let's just reiterate and summarise, because we mentioned first hire, first of all, and about in episode 1 about that might not necessarily be someone directly in your business. So can you just recap on that?
Yeah.
And then we'll move on.
So the first, this is why I was saying that I believe your first hire should be help at home in some capacity to take away some of the domestic responsibility that you have. And whether that's cleaning, cooking, dog walking, gardening, washing the cars, whatever it is, but something that's just going to free up your time and energy to focus solely on the business, I think is really powerful. And then within the business, we talked a little bit about having an assistant who can help you with business and personal stuff to help you with managing just life. Life admin is a thing, right? So like, for me, anything that can take away mental load is a winner. And it's worth saying here that if you have a partner, you can put some of that mental load on them. I see a lot of martyred business owners, particularly women, who say, I do this, 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 and this, and I run my business, and my husband goes to work and comes home and that's it. So I think asking for help, for example, I don't do laundry. I find it really stressful. So I used to outsource to a laundry company since I've been married with Stu. He's like, why would you do that? It's just a process. You just put it in, you press. So I said, okay, you do it then.
If you enjoy that process so much,
if you just want to do the process, that's fine. But for me, I find it really stressful, clothes and having them all hanging around and all that kind of stuff. So that's just one example. But also like thinking about how can I free up time in my own head so I don't have to think about things. So I have things like we have keyless entry into the house. So instead of having my house key, I have a code or an app or a thing on my phone. So I just wave it in front of the thing and it opens the door. So because I always lose my house key.
So do I. I think I might look into that.
So yeah, but there's like a 30 quid thing that you can just get off Amazon and you never have to worry about having your house key again. And that includes the people that come to help you in the house, or it might be people like the children can all get in, your parents, whatever. So like things like that. So I don't ever think, have I got my house key? It's a micro mental question that I don't ever think again. So these all add up to more time to focus on your business and having fun. So there's a few things you can do.
So we're starting with sanity.
Sanity first.
Like sanity first.
Anything.
So your first hires are basically sanity and headspace hires.
Yes, I really believe that, yeah.
They take away negative things you don't like doing in and around the home so you can relax more when you're there, which enables you to recover more from your busy day businessing, clear up your head, and then those things, like you were saying, help someone get you more organised and just find those small micro wins. Yeah,
even things like subscribe and save, you're always going to need toilet roll or deodorants or whatever, like just get all those on automatic subscriptions. You don't ever again think, are we going to run out of toilet roll? Like you just never do because you've always got it stocked up in the cupboard, for example. These are just things that, and I think most men are probably listening to this thinking, I don't even think about whether we need any more toilet roll, but a lot of women do.
I think most men think there's a magic cupboard.
Yeah, exactly.
And the toilet roll just magically appears.
So create a magic cupboard for yourself so you don't have to think about it.
I must admit, every time when I moved out first time, and every time I like move out from something, it's always the toilet roll that catches you, that catches you out. Like, it's a guaranteed thing. The first time a man moves out, it'll be the one thing, because I'll always make sure there's food of some kind, even if it's just like chocolate bars and oven chips.
Yeah.
But there'll be that time. Like, I think every man, when they first moved out to the first place, would have turned around and looked at the toilet roll holder and gone, "Who's in charge of buying toilet roll? Oh, that's me," for like the first time ever. I would just like to say, I am disappointed in your answer to when you said you didn't like doing laundry. I was expecting you to be super entrepreneurial and 8-figure and go, "So I just buy new clothes each month." I don't like doing laundry.
I don't like doing laundry.
So I just donate the dirty ones and just buy new clothes.
I do quite often throw out all of the odd socks and just start again, because I just think it's just not worth. Just throw them out and start again and get everyone the same sort of socks and stuff like that. So you know,
you're not quite fully big time yet, then.
Not fully big time. Don't have like fresh trainers every time or anything like that. But again, it's headspace though. I mean, you know, it's like wearing the same things and, you know, having a work uniform or that kind of stuff does help you. I get decision fatigue, you know.
Yes.
Worst place for me is a sandwich shop. I just stand there thinking, I don't know, like, you know, it's just too much. It's too much. So
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I know. So, I mean, I remember going to a sandwich shop, get a sandwich for Stu, and we hadn't been together that long, and I'm thinking, and I overthought it to the point I ended up buying 2 because I just couldn't decide.
And he still married you?
And he still married me because he loves 2 sandwiches. So, you know, it's a win, more, not less. But I think, so definitely they're the things that I think about first. And then in your business, what can you outsource and when? And I think for a lot of people, the first hire is a VA,
right? An
assistant of some kind.
And from that, what are we looking for with a VA? Because there's a plethora of ranges and new, I was going to say new flimsy, fancy, frilly titles that they call themselves to charge more money. Try not to swear on Helen's podcast.
Oh, you can swear on my podcast.
Oh, yeah. So there's loads of wanky titles that they call themselves these times now.
Yeah.
What are we actually looking for, and how do we know whether someone's actually going to do the job we want without deviance? Because I do know there are some VAs, you said about helping you in all areas.
Yeah.
They go, "I'm not booking your hair appointment. I'm here to update your WordPress blog. Oh, that's beneath me. That's not my role." And you think, "Oh, you're getting paid. Just do it." Like, so how do you know what title we are looking for, and how do we make sure they are the right fit for us as that Swiss Army knife sidekick person that we really want them to be?
Yeah, so for me, I'm always looking for somebody that I can trust, because if you're going to let somebody into your life to that point where, it's they know like personal medical things, or they know personal finance things, they're in your email where anything could be going on. So I think somebody that I can trust and who gets it. I'm always looking for mum energy, because I need looking after. You know, I'm difficult to manage. You know,
Who would have thought?
I know, who'd have thought? So I need someone who can deal with me. And that can mean being kind to me when I need it, and also giving me a kick up the bum if I need it. If I'm being silly, or I'm having I don't want to fill in that form because I don't want to go on that podcast or whatever. I need them to fill in the form, but I need them to be able to understand what's right for me. And I think that quite often is quite hard to recruit for, but I always try and put people off, you know, and I'm saying, look, you know, I work with what I've got rather than what they've got. So I say, I have no boundaries. I will message 47 times on a Sunday morning, because that's when the thought has come to my head. And if that's not acceptable, then I'm not the client for you. I don't expect a response on Sunday morning, but I know myself. You know thyself is most important, right? I know myself, and I know that I won't be able to not do that. So I don't expect a response, but you know, you need to understand that that's what's going to come from me. So I'm very much really open and honest about who I am and what I'm like. And I also always say to people is, what you see is what you get to a point, but I'm not as nice as you see online. Because online, I've got to be the best version of me. Yeah. And the real version of me isn't always that nice. You know, I can get grumpy, I can get tired, I can get, and I just need you to understand that if you've seen me online, like, you're not going to get that all the time.
No.
And I've had some really, really great relationships with my VAs over the years, so it must have worked, you know. Yeah. And but I mean, I'm sure I have burnt a couple out as well. Who don't want to work in that way, because when I decide I want to do something, I want to do it, and I want to do it right now.
I think that's an interesting thing because, again, my mind works similar. There'll be an idea at 10:30 at night if I don't actually write the email or do something, but I very much don't want the person thinking about it at 10:30 at night.
No,
I don't want
I
them
don't.
went out because I know, for example, I purposely don't open any emails unless I'm willing to deal with emails. I don't open my WhatsApp, my business WhatsApp, unless I'm actually willing to deal with it. Because as soon as I know something's there, I can't then relax and enjoy my weekend or unwind in the evening. So it's purposely, I've had to work very hard. I've realised I can't know and ignore. I have to not know. So it's literally no emails get opened after a certain point, which people do. But sometimes I'll go in there and I'll send it, and I figured out a way of going in and sending without seeing anything in my inbox. So if I want to send someone something, it's like, okay, I'm going to send this out. But you don't want people doing that and it's a case of like, I'm going to do this just because my brain's working. Like, because I've woken up with the idea at 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning, I don't expect you to reply till then. So please don't answer your emails. Please don't log in until then. It's not what I'm
There's an upside to it all as well. That's why I always say, like, there's loads of downsides to working for me in that close capacity. But I like to think I'm a pretty nice person. I'm pretty laid back. I don't get anyone to time track. I don't get anyone. I'm very much like, whatever you're doing is up to you, as long as when I need you, you're around, sort of not at 4 a.m. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm quite laid back in a lot of ways as well. So for me, there's swings and roundabouts to working for me. Yeah. But from my side, like outside of a personal assistant, which is a bit more like emotionally led, I guess, I just surround myself with people who are loads better than me at everything. I've got so many weaknesses when it comes to business. There's an episode that we've mapped out and I'm just like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to talk about these things because I don't know anything about them. There's so many things in my business that I do not understand and I could not manage without people to help me with.
Maybe that's season 3. Maybe what we need to do in season 3 is actually talk through the machine and get your team in here.
Yeah,
and you say how, I'd be really interested for us to like ask you what you think actually happens.
I have no idea.
And then the team member actually go, well, Helen says this, and then we ignore her, and then we just do this anyway, and then it comes back. Helen says she wants a chocolate cake. We know she doesn't actually like chocolate cake. So we just order a Victoria sponge. And the Victoria sponge arrives. She goes, oh, that's far better. I'm glad I thought of that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's it. A lot of my staff are much better at knowing me sometimes than I am myself. I'll say I want to do something, they're like, you'll hate that in a few. We call it like future Helen. It's like future Helen will hate you for that. Don't do it. Or I'll say like, I think I might put this offer out, and they're like, don't do it because you'll sell it and then you won't want to deliver it because we've seen you do this a million times, sort of thing. So I think, getting your team on it, having an understanding, but also I don't want to know about how my business runs. I don't need to know. It's not important for me to understand how tech works or how a system works. Or like I got Natalie in my team is my she's sales and strategy, and she sent me this master document that they all work on, and I opened it up and I was like, so that makes me feel physically sick. And she always refers to it. Well, that document that makes you feel sick, which you obviously won't read, that's where the information is that you need.
Have you been tempted to go in and rename it?
It's like, what's the link for this? It's in the document. I could imagine them through gritted teeth, like it's all in that document. But I'm just like got so overwhelmed with the big document. I won't even look at it. Same with spreadsheets. The accountants are like, the only bit of that I've forced myself to get good at is looking at the numbers. Yeah. Because I feel like that's crucial. And because I have had times in my business where it's really crucial, I have educated myself and learned basic accounting stuff, like basics. But, I understand, I can read a P&L. Yeah. I understand, about gross profit, net profit, like Richard Branson famously didn't understand it, which I thought was brilliant. Yeah. But I understand those differences. I understand about, expenses and cash flow and weekly cash flow, and I can read it and stuff like that. So I have forced myself against my will to get better at business numbers. I think that's a basic entrepreneurial skill that you need. But apart from that, everything else, I don't, much to my team's annoyance, I don't know my logins to anything. I try and use the same password for everything. Like I don't know what links are for things. I don't know where anything is. So they know, but I don't know, which must be really frustrating.
In some ways, I think that a team might think, I wish Ellen was more involved.
Yeah.
Right. Until they get a boss that micromanages them and wants to be involved in everything. Well, I've just logged into there. I've just logged into the WordPress site. Why is that there? Why is that there? And then they'll suddenly clamber for like, can we have Helen back? You know, like who was...
Well, actually, what happened quite recently, I was like, I feel a bit left out. You know, like they got so good at operating without me. I was kind of like,
what a nice point to be at.
I don't know what's going on. I feel a bit left out because I've obviously got, because one of the first things Natalie said to me, you got to come out of that team chat because I'm in the team WhatsApp. And the thing is, when I get involved, I break things.
Yeah.
You know, I say, well, why aren't we doing this? Or why should we be doing this? But it's all under control. But then I try and like move things at my pace when I'm dealing with a team of people who need to work at their pace, because that's how things get done and balls don't get dropped and things don't fall down the gaps, you know. But to me, I'm like, oh, let's just, you know, let's just go. So, but I did say, and the two sort of main, if you like, senior team came to my house and they said, look, you know, we love you and we want you to know like how much we love you and we're not going anywhere no matter what, which I thought was really sweet. But if you want to be more involved, we can do, but you've got, you know, you sure that's what you want? So now I'm kind of like, I said, well, I'll tell you what I really want. I want to hear all the good stuff, none of the bad stuff. So if you could just filter it, so I only hear the things that are going really well, the things that are working really well. And if you just try and deal with the problems before they get to me, that would be great. Because I used to be in the team chat where I'd see everything. You know, so-and-so doesn't want to pay anymore, you know, is just bogged off and gone and bought someone else's thing and now they're telling us they can't afford ours sort of thing. And it'd wind me up. And then I'd know that person and I'd, you know, then I'd be thinking, well, you know, right, we'll take them out of all the groups. And it'd start to affect my energy. Whereas it's just business, you know, they're just bogged off and they go on a credit control thing and that's it, you know. So I was getting, my energetics were affected by the everyday bad stuff that happens in a business. And I always said it a lot on episode 1 was, if you love the podcast, please let me know. If you hate it, send an email to Gillian at support because I don't see any of that emails.
No.
So I take myself out of anything that might affect me negatively.
So with what you're saying in that, I think there's a lot of gold in there. And I think what's interesting is skills was barely mentioned. Trust and people were.
Yeah.
And I remember I worked at a hotel in Cornwall when I was going through university. And one of the guys that come in to run HR down there used to work for Google in HR. So he had a master's, he was proper into it. And he loved it probably far more than HR needs loving. Sorry, HR professionals out there. And
HR needs loving.
And I remember he called us into a meeting once and they introduced us with like new trousers with pockets. And he said, like, have your phones on you. He said, we shouldn't be employing you if we don't trust you.
Right.
You know, it was a very basic premise. He said, you shouldn't feel not trusted.
Yeah.
And if we've employed people we don't trust, we should never have given you the job.
Yeah.
So, you know, you start with trust and it's now, you know, your chance to like lose that. You can have your phones in your pockets, but they stay on silent and you check them back out in the thing occasionally.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect the way the restaurant runs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like we are now giving you that trust. We're not going to be eagle eyes on you. You know, you can have a coffee from the nice coffee machine rather than the awful one in the staff room.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it doesn't start getting silly. Do you know what I mean? And as long as you write it down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was really interesting, just that trust just changed the way the whole place felt. Nothing else really changed, but it became a lot more pleasant place to work. So within that, these people that you found that you trust that much, were they people that were already in your sphere anyway for you to know them? Because how do you know that you're going to trust people in that sense? Or do you gradually like let the leash out a little bit more as you're trusting someone to kind of go, okay, I'm going to start you off with just this simple stuff. And then as I build the trust and as I know the relationships there, because I agree with what you're saying. Like it's just like trust is great. Like just to know that they've got it and to know.
I've got it. And I think trust, so I often to my detriment believe that everybody's a good person and everyone is here to do good because that's how I operate. And I expect other people to be the same. I've found over the years that is not the case. Yeah, and I don't want to drag this episode down into some of those, you know, some of the things that haven't gone so well and the things that
we can do that in another episode.
Haven't worked out. But ultimately, most people who come to work for somebody else are doing it for the right reasons. They want to help. You know, they want the business to grow. They want the business to do well. Doesn't mean everyone's always capable. Sometimes people say or think they can do things, but actually they can only do those things in the right environment. And I
Yes.
think the environment that I create is so chaotic that the best person. So when we've traditionally gone through a recruitment process, we've always recruited really good, solid, skilled people
Yeah.
that just can't cope in the environment because the environment is not normal. You know, the environment is chaotic, and it's, you know, we call it fast paced. I mean, it's like a million miles an hour, right?
But that is, if you read fast paced on a job advert, anybody,
That means
fast
chaos.
paced basically means like batshit crazy.
Absolute chaos, yeah. And it is chaos. So the team I've got now are incredibly loyal and have been with me through the good times and the bad. And that is quite an important point. When things are really good and externally people can see things are really good, you do tend to attract people who want to get on the train with you. You know,
Yeah.
you just do, rightly or wrongly. They know that you're going places. And the benefit of working with me is I make you look really good.
Yeah.
If you're a supplier of anything, I'm going to make you look good because I'm really good.
Yeah.
So whether you're a copywriter, a Facebook ads person, whether you're a strategist, whether you're anything, I'm going to make it look good because what I do is good.
You're going to pull your part of the weight.
I'll put my part of the way, yeah. So quite often, sometimes people have come into my world and looked great, but then they can't replicate it either for themselves or outside of that because the other clients aren't as good. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think understanding the benefits against the cost is quite important. And I think the team I've got now, that was really more about suppliers and, you know, people who come in to do a job, if that makes sense. My team now who run the business is different to people that come in to do a job, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my team now are really loyal. And I know when Natalie came into the team, she's worked behind the scenes in a lot of big online businesses. And she said, I've never been behind the scenes in a business like yours. She said, everybody loves you. Like your team love you. Your clients love you. Not all of them, obviously. But, you know, overall, she said she spoke to about 50 of my clients.
Yeah.
And they all absolutely just love me, you know, love Helen, right? And my team, well, we love Helen. We just want her to do really well. And that really is the magic, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Love and loyalty trumps anything.
I think that's the useful thing as well, isn't it? Because she's worked in other businesses, she's got experiences, she's seen how it's done. And the entrepreneurial industry, especially the online entrepreneurial industry, does have a plethora of egos and divas and stuff like that really kind of start believing their own hype and get over it. You know, like, oh, I'm this person and I've got this.
Yeah.
And that must be hard to deal with as a team. So like when it's kind of like that, down to earth, treat them with respect, you know, trust them, you know, to do what you're doing, and treat them like humans rather than like,
treat them like the essential part of the machine that they are. And it always makes me laugh because if any of my team want to speak to me, I panic that they're leaving. You know, like in the old days, you'd get an email saying, can I see you after, you know, can I see you after lunch? And all, when you've got a job and all afternoon, you can't eat your lunch because you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like,
it normally was for me, by the way.
Yeah, no, same. I think it's because I've been fired so many times, you know? And I love my team so much. Like, my energy is, please don't leave me. The energy is not like I can replace you in a heartbeat. The energy is, please don't leave me because I'll never be able to replace you. You're amazing and I love you and nobody else will deal with me. So please don't leave. And it's kind of like that energy of, I feel like I need them more than they need me. They can go and get another client tomorrow and make the same money. So, you know, I need them to.
They're choosing you. They don't need you.
Yeah, I want them to choose me, not need me. And I think going through the bad times was really humbling. I would definitely say, and I know there'll be people probably not listening to this because why would they bother listening to me? They'll probably be listening to this thinking, you were a bit of a dick in 2018, 2019. You started believing your own hype. You know, you started employing people thinking you were, you know, you're lucky you get to come and work here. Like I'm sure I was, you know, and I've had loads of people leave. So it's not like I've had a team and they've stayed with me forever. So I've had loads of people leave and I've had loads of people come and go. But I would say I'm a great incubator for people. Over the years, I've had a lot of people come and then, especially VAs actually, get behind the scenes and in the nicest possible way, like I'm so inspired by seeing what you do and the work you do and the way you do it and the way you help people. Like, I want to go and start my own business doing something, or I want to go and start my change from being a VA to doing something different or something
but that's okay,
more.
isn't it?
And that's great. And I like go with love and cheering you on. And, Kylie Jones was my first ever VA, and she's runs this, this great VA agency. And I just think I'm so pleased and proud of her. I just think, good, you can't expect people to stay forever, but I'd say the team I've got now, they're hopefully, anyway, if you're listening to this, settled in for the next phase.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think a company can work if everybody is rowing together in the same direction for at least a period of time to get you to the other shore. Do you know what I mean? It's like they might want to come in because they've got ideas that they want to do. So they might be getting paid to train. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Going and working for someone.
Yeah.
Most people that run their own marketing agencies probably worked for a marketing agency, or they'll do that. Or they might go and work for a marketing agency because then they want to go and do their thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as whilst you're with the people, you give a fair value exchange for what it is, and you're honest about, hey, I'm here to do this for this amount of time, or hey, do you know what? This isn't fulfilling me anymore. I'm going for that. Now, conscious that we want to get on to your next hire.
Yes.
Part of it. And one of the things I'd like you to answer within your next hire part is you trust your team. Your team run most of your business now with trust and documents that you don't know where they are, logins that you don't know. At what point do the team start telling you what the next hire needs to be? And at what point does the team's opinion of the next hire, because they're reporting to the team, not to you directly, how do you manage that? So your next hire, if I'm already up and running, how do I decide on where my next hire should be? And if I have a machine and a team that I trust as much as you've got, at what point do I say to my sidekick, they're going to be reporting to you, so you go find someone?
Yeah, exactly. Because they got to now work with you, not me.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful to have that buffer between you and them. And there's people that now that supply into my team who would I class them as team? Yeah, they're part of the team, but they're like a supplier. Yeah. Like, for example, Chantal's copywriter, we've hired her for the whole year. And I, she knew me and I knew her, and we did a deal just before Christmas, and she's, writing all the emails and all that kind of good stuff. I saw her at an event the other week, and I was like, oh, we've not really spoke. And she's been in the team for 3 months because Natalie manages her. Natalie tells her what she needs to do. And that's the thing. There's no point hiring someone if you've then got to use all the time and energy training them and looking after them, right? So the first hire really should be somebody in between you and them. Yeah. And then they then
involved in that.
Yeah. So I might have suggested that we use her, but it was really Natalie's decision, because Natalie's got to work with her, you know, and got to assess her work. Because I don't do any due diligence or anything like that.
You don't want Natalie to, if your copywriter's a diva, you don't want your VA or your OBM to be having to deal with that mood swings. And the same with ad agencies. You don't want to make their job harder or not as enjoyable. So how do I know which is my next hire then? How do I sit there? Because I've got in a sense, I've got outsourcers and as opposed to team. Yeah. And if I was like, where do I go next? How do I know? What's the process?
So it's normally, in my experience, either there's something on fire, as in there's a fire that needs putting out.
Right.
Yeah, there's a problem, basically. Some kind of bottleneck or some kind of squeeze point that's stopping growth. Yeah. And then it's there because that's going to open that up. But also, you've also got to, when you do your next hire, there's usually a bit of a step back before you can step forward, because you're getting that person obviously up and running and all the rest of it. And then the other reason is a much more fun reason, which is there's an opportunity or there's an unexplored territory, you know. And this frustrates me massively because I haven't got unlimited cash at the moment. So this is what I was saying about cash flow. The more cash I can get, the more of these territories I can explore. Yeah. You know, like the podcast was something new. But then it's like, well, now I need somebody to help take that podcast out into the world. I always like to hire for expertise, as in I want them to be a real niche specialist in the thing. Right. So I'd never hire a marketer, but I once hired someone just to do my stories.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense? Like someone who's really into the one thing. So like for YouTube, exactly right. Really, I need a YouTube expert to do the YouTube. I need a podcast expert to do the podcast strategy and work with the YouTube. You know what I mean? So it's almost like I'm looking for, and like Pinterest, for example. Like I met a woman on a retreat, it was Pinterest, and I wanted to give her
so much traffic from Pinterest.
I know,
so
and I was just
underused.
like, I know it's SEO, and I just wanted to give her loads of money and get her to do Pinterest for me. So I think the fun bit is unexplored territories. It's like, where else could we go? Where else have we not been? Like it's the man on the moon thing. It's like, where else is someone making money that I'm not? And how can I go and exploit that? And who do I need to exploit that? So I don't want to learn Pinterest. I just want to find someone who's already knows it and loves it and is passionate about it. And then they can do the Pinterest for me, for example. But we did have this recently where we realized there was a big bottleneck in the business, and that was in sales.
Right.
Big bottleneck. That team were doing the calls, but the team's tiny and the team's trying to do all the other things. And I know this drives Natalie mad because she's so good at sales and she's a sales strategist. But I had to have a conversation with her, which was like, you can't, like, there's one thing that I am amazing at, and that's generating leads. I don't think there's anyone better than me.
Right.
Like, you know, I've got leads coming out of my eyes, ears, nose. Honestly, they're everywhere. Everywhere you look in my business, there's leads. In my scorecard, I've got thousands and thousands of leads. Did a masterclass, 1,200 people registered for it. They're all obviously leads. Do 5-day challenges, got leads. I spend money on ads, get leads. Like everywhere you go, I've got 70,000 people on my email list right now. Lead generation is not the problem. The problem is we just do not have the capacity to speak to all those people, follow them up. Yeah, so this is where tech comes in, right? So we're following up with, we've got WhatsApp going, we've got, you know, emails going, we've got different ways of interaction. So we've got all that kind of set, but we're not got anyone on the phone. Natalie is great on the phone, but she hasn't got time to be ringing.
She's got other duties and roles.
She's got other stuff to do. So we've hired a sales team, and that was a really
big step, scary step,
massive, scary step, because I love my audience so much. And I do not trust anybody to talk to them apart from us. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. So,
the whole sales meeting with the salespeople was me saying, you do not put any pressure on my people. You do not ring my people if they ask you not to ring again. You do not try and close them on one call.
Yeah.
You know, you have to give them plenty of, and you know, you could just see like they were just a bit like, we know. But I was like, no, you don't understand. You cannot just go marauding through these leads as if they're just leads because they're people.
Absolutely. You can't, the reputation can be ruined by salespeople if it goes to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting thing. So what we've given there with people, like, I know we sort of like the next hire was kind of skimmed in context with like the first hire, but in some ways, like the first hire is like a bigger thing. And I think the overall ethos of where you're exploring trust was a really useful thing. So it's almost like, to summarize the next hire thing, are there any fires in the business that you don't have the skills to deal with or the time to deal with? Are there any bottlenecks?
Yeah.
What opportunities which you can't explore that you could explore if you had these people? So it's like, you're not marketing on Pinterest, you're not marketing on Facebook, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. Have you got a PR person getting you in the press? They're all stuff that would be nice to do and opportunities I'd like to explore, but actually I don't want to move any of the existing team away from doing it and do it. So it's kind of like, you can literally just have that sheet. And as you think of an opportunity you want to take out, you put it in the opportunity ones. When you're reviewing your thing, go in the bottlenecks and go, right, this has happened 2 quarters in a row.
Yeah.
The sales, we haven't converted enough sales. We had enough leads.
Yeah.
Time for the sales team to come on board.
And it's true, you know.
Because it's there.
And this is where you will have to be in your CEO mindset, really. Because Natalie was resistant isn't the right word, but you could tell she was like, yeah, but I know, but if I had the time, I was like, you haven't got the time, you haven't got the resources, we're going to have to bring in a team and we're going to have to tread very carefully, but we're going to have to do it. And, you know, looking at the, like last week's report, you know, they made 800 or something calls and that they only operate half the week because they've got a team of 9 people.
Wow.
So there's no way on earth we could have made 800 calls.
Absolutely.
It just wouldn't happen. So to me, that's an investment worth making because there's people out there who will buy from us if we call them, not because we're going to hound them with sales calls, it's because they were waiting to be asked.
Yeah.
And they just hadn't made a decision yet, you know? So it's a big opportunity that I feel like we're still early days. So I could be doing another episode of this saying it was a disaster, but so far so good, yeah.
So to close the episode off, just quickly, next hire, first hire, trust and what you need.
Yeah.
Next hire is, first of all, fires, bottlenecks, then opportunities.
Yeah.
In that
order, I'd say,
in that order. Cool. And what are we on to the next episode? What is the next episode for people to tune in?
Looking at my notes. Oh, so this is the one. Next is the one that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, but I think you'll know more about this. But it's about automations. So it's about automations you need to grow without losing your mind.
I was getting excited then. I thought it was the episode where you promised that you were going to cry.
I don't think I'll be crying about automations. But the thing is, I'll be able to talk about it because I can see what they do for my business. Even though I don't know how they work.
So in the next episode, we'll be phoning Natalie to find out how Helen's automations worked. Look forward to talking to you, and we're not talking at you. Then, thanks very much, Helen.
Thanks, John.
And I'll see you in the next episode.